There is so much instruction out there today. It's literally an ocean. A lot of the information and a lot of the instructors, they contradict each other. They're so confusing. How in the world are we supposed to make sense of all this stuff and untie the knot to just perform a simple act like hitting a ball with a stick that way? Hey everybody, and welcome back to Golf Test Dummy, the channel where I use my game to help your game. Just getting in a little warm up out here, getting the old bones loose. Does golf have to be that complicated? Does the swing have to be so complicated? Is there a reason for you to be sitting there watching this video right now, trying to figure out how to swing a stick around yourself and hit a ball? You've probably heard a lot of instructors and people out there talk about how golfers haven't improved for decades with all of the advancements in equipment and all of this coaching that's available on YouTube, yet golfers still have not improved over the last several decades. Well, that is not really true. As a matter of fact, the data shows that in the last 25 years, the average male golfer has gone from a 16.3 handicap down to a 14.4 handicap, which is pretty considerable. And for female golfers, they've dropped a whole 3 strokes. So what's driving that? Is it tech or is it teaching? We'll leave that debate for down in the comments for right now. That seems like that's a whole nother topic of discussion. If you've been following the channel for any length of time, you know that when I started the channel, the main thing I focused on was trying to find some of the swings taught by coaches that were off the beaten path. Some, let's just call them unconventional swing models. I tried and experimented with those for years. You tend to get lost in the weeds a lot. There's definitely, however, some commonalities that you can find amongst all of those and with conventional golf. Some points that everybody kind of agrees on, and there lies the truth. Lately, I've been asking myself this question: how is it that we can ditch all of this onslaught, this barrage of information, this wave that's constantly crashing on us of golf instruction and conflicting ideas, all of these different thoughts, and everybody says they've got the secret, and you need to do this. No, you need to do this. No, that's incorrect. That's never been correct. You need to do this. All of those contradicting statements. How is it that we can just simplify everything and stop being golf swing psychos? There's 2 people that had what I would call a fairly decent career that have some commonalities with each other: Tom Watson and Jack Nicklaus. Tom tried to model his swing after Jack Nicklaus, as a matter of fact. So if you say, well, you study Jack, you kind of study Tom, that's true to a certain extent. However, there are some differences. But both of these guys, I think, really tried to build their golf swing around a stable spine, not allowing themselves to change their spine angle this way or this way during the swing. It seems elementary. I know it seems elementary, but like I said, we get so far from shore and so lost in the weeds with all of the golf instruction that's pulling us in literally 40 million different directions all the time that even the simplest things like that can seem so easily overlooked. Can it be that simple? Can I really set up to a golf ball and set my spine and then try to turn around that spine without taking it up, down, or forward or backward, and then turn back through this way, through impact? Jack took it to the extreme. He said that he felt like there was a large spike that came down through his head, through his spine, and into the ground. And as he made his swing, he would keep his head and his spine and everything still, and then his finish ended up, he carried it to such an extreme that even after the golf ball had left and he was at his finish, he was in that reverse C. That caused a lot of back and hip problems. Later on, he's had, I don't know, something like 4,728 surgeries, I'm guessing. But that caused a lot of back problems. After the ball's gone, in my opinion, it's kind of irrelevant. You don't have to maintain all of that into the finish, but if you move and change that angle before the golf ball has been struck and before it's left the club face, it can cause a lot of issues. I've struggled with those. I used to have a lot of the up and down and changing of the spine angle in my swing, and I've been trying to work on eliminating that. And what I found is that if I just stayed in that position with a good setup, by the way, if I just stayed in that position, stayed bent over, and just tried to keep that relationship to the golf ball, which speaks of Tom Segudo. Hey, there's one of the great YouTube golf instructors that are out there. But if I keep that and then I don't change it, try to focus on maintaining that through the swing, my consistency really shot up. It really sort of came to life, and it really simplified a lot of things. Now, can you just hold your spine in the same place and have everything, all the dominoes fall just so to where, boom, you end up with a great golf swing? Well, it's got to be a little bit more than that, but I think that the work before you set the spine into motion, the setup, if you tweak that to your own personal physique and your own personal sort of idiosyncrasies, then going around that spine, that fixed spine, can really work. Now, if you make the still spine, the non-moving spine, the core or the sun in your solar system, a lot of the other parts, the setup and the rhythm and the tempo and the timing, that's all going to be personalized to you. You'll have to figure all that out on your own. But for me personally, here's what I've tried to do in order to support this stable spine idea and make that sort of the hub, and the rest of these things would be the spokes. I've had a tendency to stay narrow with my feet. I'm trying to actively think wider base at setup. I have to do that. For you guys out there that might already be setting up with a fairly wide base, obviously, if you want it to be wide, you don't have to tell yourself that because you're already doing that. All right, we're trying to get to the same destination, but we're coming from different points on the map. So the twists and turns that you'll have to make to get to that destination are going to be different than mine. And I think that's one of the core issues with golf instruction, is that we want the same things, we just have to take different routes to get there. But the next thing that I try to do after I get a nice stable base and set my spine is I'm trying to picture. This helps me a lot. I don't know if it would help you necessarily, but when I'm set up over the golf ball, I'm trying to picture that if I'm looking down at it, out of my peripheral vision, I can see that ball taking off in the direction I want it to go, and I can see how high or low it is above the ground. For instance, if I was hitting a driver, I would see something lower to the ground, and if I was hitting a lob wedge, I'd see something more up here. But I kind of see how that ball is going to take off and the direction out here in which it's going to go. And I sort of set up to that takeoff, that little bit, that stripe of color that I see going out toward the target. And then I put a little bit more weight on my front foot. I'm not putting a huge amount on the front foot, but maybe an extra 5 to 10%. And I feel like that leg becomes an anchor. Once I've got all that established and I'm set up and I feel like, yeah, that ball is going to go about right there, and now I'm kind of set up to it. From here, I firm up my grip just a little bit and firm up my arms. And the reason for that is because I tend to get too lazy and sloppy and just let things flop around, and I don't want that. Now, I don't want a bunch of tension in it. I don't want to feel like, you know, I'm really squeezing everything, but I do firm it up just a hair, and then I turn my shoulders back and through. And I try to keep that spine as quiet and still as I can. I'm not able to do it every time at this point. I'm still working on it. I'm changing habits, so it's going to take time. But I'm trying to get there, and I see improvement in it. And honestly, I'm able to forget about what the hands and the arms and everything else is doing if I just focus on keeping my spine in that position. So I'm going to try that again, set up to it just like I know how. And I want to think about nothing except making sure that that spine stays as quiet as possible. That's better. That's a good strike. The more I work on it, the better I get at it. It's not perfect at this point, and it will never be perfect, but I honestly feel like each day, each week, I make progress, and I get better and better, and I have to think about what I'm doing less and less and less. Now, the way Tom Watson described his was to put his club or some kind of a pole behind his shoulders, and then he would get bent over like he was set up to the golf ball, and then he would try to pivot around that spine, never changing the plane that club was tracking on. If it was tracking here, it would move back and through on that same plane. That, for some people, might be a little difficult, but it's worth a try. It's worth trying it. So if I sit up and I just think about that plane behind and try to turn, that's not bad. It's not bad. I don't know that that would be my exact swing thought. I think it might be a little bit more difficult for me, but it might work for some of you guys out there. And then, of course, there's Jack. And like I said before, his big tip was to imagine the spike driven down to the top of his head. And I've even heard Ron Sisson, a golf coach in Canada, talk about how when Jack was young, his coach would actually grab his hair to hold his head in the same position and make Jack make full swings. I'm not sure if that's true or not. That's secondhand information to me, but it sounds like something that could very well happen. The problem I see with what he did was staying in it just way too long and finishing. Mark Crossfield and a couple others, Jake Hutt on Instagram, they've been talking a lot about how it's actually a turn back with side bend, and then it's a turn through with side bend, and then you actually tuck your hips underneath and your back arches the other way. And that's all true. It's all true, but trying to do this and then this and then this and then this and all of that, it gets way too complicated for my liking. For me, all I need to do is just keep my spine right there and allow my body's natural movements, my knees, my hips, my arms, my shoulders, and everything to just work however they work. Just make sure that I don't move my spine. So it's definitely worth trying. It's been helping me quite a bit with consistency, not only of line and dispersion, but also of flight and distances. That coupled with the fact that I'm absolutely loving these Srixon blades. They're fantastic. They're just super consistent. Anyway, think about it. How complicated does the simple act of swinging a club around you and hitting a ball, how complicated does that really have to be? Why are we watching so many hours of instruction and getting all this information as I have done for years? I feel like it hasn't been wasted because I've learned a lot from it, and I've learned a lot of what I don't want to be involved in, a lot of what I don't want to do. And I feel like now I've been able to distill things down to find my own swing, which is what you see out here, and it's a hell of a lot simpler than all of the stuff that I've been watching in years past. Guys, I hope you appreciated this. Be sure to leave me a like and a thumbs up down below. Leave me some comments. Tell me your thoughts on it. See you in the next video.